The war on global terrorism is viewed by many in the Muslim world today as a war against Islam and the Muslim world. So in a sense, you have some in the West talking about a war on global terrorism, but often not distinguishing between Islam and Muslim extremism. I'm John Esposito. I'm a university professor at Georgetown University and director of the Center for Muslim-Christian Understanding. I had done my work in Catholic theology, went to graduate school, intended to finish a degree in religion, but was required to study world religions first. Everybody went in, and I became interested in Buddhism and Hinduism. When I was asked to study Islam by the chairman, I refused, because I didn't know much about Islam, and in the late 60s, I had all of the stereotypes that many in America have about Arabs and Muslims. Harems, backwardness, and of course the Arab-Israeli conflict, but seen only from one perspective. So as far as I was concerned, why would I want to do it? But then when I was strongly encouraged, one might even say forced, to at least agree to take one course, the world sort of exploded for me. Wrong term to use these days, but a world opened up for me. And that is, I suddenly realized that it wasn't just that there was a Judeo-Christian tradition, that there was a Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition. Whereas it used to be that Islam was put over there with Hinduism and Buddhism and sharply distinguished in most people's minds with Judaism and Christianity. So I became very interested in the interconnections. And then as I saw the unfolding of the Iranian Revolution and the emergence of Islam in many people's consciousness in the West, with no context, the emergence of Islam as a global threat, rather than simply dealing with the realities of what was going on, but seeing this global threat, it just seemed to me as if this was something that had to be addressed. We live in an interconnected world because of globalization, and that interconnected world is not just one that says that political violence can affect me physically. It says that political violence can affect the economic well-being of the world. And therefore, it becomes very important for you, no matter what job you go into, to be aware of the world in which you live in, because there's a good chance that what you want to do will be interconnected with other global societies, will be affected by it, and certainly the relationship between 1.3 billion Muslims who are not just out there, they're living in our societies, becomes important. It's fairly admitted, even by the Bush administration, that the one area that the U.S. has not been successful has been public diplomacy. And indeed, the president appointed somebody very close to him, Karen Hughes, to jumpstart. Now, whether or not that happens remains to be seen. And certainly, I think, a place like the Alliance becomes a place for the United States, it seems to me, to play, as for Europe, to play a very important and constructive role. If we want to promote cooperation between these civilizations, then we have to walk the way we talk. I think we emphasize the talk often. The real question is, how do we move beyond to implement? First stage is you come together, you look at the problem. Second stage is you devise and discuss solutions. But third stage is these ought to be solutions that can be implemented and then are implemented. Well, one approach would be that you go to the American Embassy and you say one way to prevent young people from throwing bombs at the embassy is you provide them with soccer balls, baseballs, and places where you can play sports. Because part of what Amr Khalid was saying is we talk about youth and developing, but we don't have areas where they can even play sports or get involved in a lot of the other things that let their energy go, let alone the channels for voicing their grievances and their concerns. I think too often, although we're having a lot of conferences on dialogue, what's our problem, my own criticism, being somebody who tends to be very proactive, is that you not only have to talk, you also have to walk. You have to implement and do things. And I think that's really the challenge that the Alliance faces. Does the Alliance actually come up with projects and programs and not only write about them, but actually assure in one way or another that these are funded and put into operation? Unless we do that, then all we have is a lot of good stuff in archives while the world continues to reel and at times seem like it's reeling out of control. My biggest hope for the Alliance of Civilizations is that the momentum which we are gaining now will actually continue and come to fruition. And that means that by the time that our first year is over, that we will have so created an agenda for reform and begun to implement programs that countries and individuals will see that this is something that is both critical for the world at this particular point in time and something that they need to support. And that as a result of that, that what the Alliance sets in motion will continue. That in fact, the work of the Alliance will not simply be a 1 year and then it's over, but rather that there will be a way of moving to, if you will, a next stage in which the Alliance, the Secretariat that's set up, the projects that are both actually set in motion as well as those that are put in line will continue to be supported and implemented.